Levels are good. Okay, hi everyone. Welcome to eLearnChat, where talk is knowledge. And today we're going to talk. We're going to talk about our voices. And with us, we've got
Tracy
Tracy
Goodwin.
Goodwin. Oh my gosh, I've been up way too early this morning. I looked at you and I'm going, ah. Tracy is a voice coach. She has a lot of experience in coaching, teaching, doing plays, just teaching voiceover, teaching people how to present. So we're going to go through all of that. We'll show samples. And we were thinking, Tracy, maybe today we'll have you take a listen to our voices and see how we sound and what we're doing right and wrong.
Ooh, well, okay. That sounds fun.
That sounds fun. Scary, too, but... So, all right, well, I think we're good. You want to go through the shots real quickly, make sure all the levels are good? Tracy, can we get some voice level from you?
Me?
Yeah.
Voice level from me? Sure.
Yeah.
How's that sound?
Okay, you're good. Linda?
Hello,
You're good?
hello.
Okay, I'm good? Okay, so I think we're all good. All right, so we are going to, let's switch the shot. And so we're going to do a quick intro, and then we will introduce you. Okay, so whenever you're ready, let's count down. Hi, everyone. Welcome to eLearnChat, where talk, it's knowledge. Today, we are joined by Tracy Goodwin. She's fun. Wait till you meet her. And with us is our co-host, good friend, Linda Joy. And what do I always say, Linda? Linda means pretty in Spanish, and Joy, she is such a joy to work with. And I never get tired of saying that. You're just wonderful.
Thank you, Rick.
Anyway,
Hi.
we're going to have a good show today. It'll be fun. Here we go. Linda, you're a voiceover talent. You're a voice actress. You've done drama. You've done games. You studied at prestigious
Mozarteum.
schools like the Mozart School of Music and drama and everything else. So you've got a long background in voice, in using your voice and acting and everything else. Today we've got with us Tracy Goodwin, who has a very long history, not that long, she's not that old, a very long history in voice acting, coaching, drama. She's got a degree in drama and teaching children's drama, which is very interesting, and teaching plays. And she helps a lot of people present, learn how to captivate the room, which is her website. And she's dynamic, she's exciting, fun to be with. And really, a lot of people in this particular audience, if you're a trainer, you know who you are used to talking to people, to presenting. And this is exactly what she does to make your life better, because it is all about your voice. Tracy, how are you today?
Good. Good to see you. Good to be here with both of you.
Yeah, and you're in some undisclosed location right now. We're in a hotel, right?
I'm always on the road these days,
Yeah.
incognito.
Incognito. But you'll be in LA soon. You want to tell us a little bit about the webinars or seminars that you're doing?
The webinars and seminars that I'm doing now.
Yeah, you've got a couple coming up.
I do. I'm sure you see so many guests, but the last time that I was with you, I said, I'm thinking about getting live again. Mm-hmm. Well, I did, and I have really been back out on the road, doing workshops and live training and live speaking, and of course I just absolutely love it. And so what I've got coming up next is an actors workshop in Los Angeles, which is October, I believe it's the 3rd. It's really coming up fast. And then I've got a business workshop, voice workshop for business people in Austin, Texas on October 29th. So I am on the road again and having a ball. It's exhausting, but I really love the live. There's nothing like live.
And it's
But
interesting.
you also have a corporate business workshop coming up in LA then after those
Yes.
two, don't you?
Yes, I do. And I had planned to do them together, but it'll be a little bit later in the month. But people can find out about it on my website, and I've not come out to the West Coast. You know, I have spent my time on the East Coast and the South, and so I'm super excited to come to the West Coast. I've had a lot of clients on the West Coast this year, and I can't wait to be out there.
Bring your super person costume.
Oh, okay.
Are you going to be in LA proper?
Yeah.
Yeah. When you go to Hollywood, you have all the cartoon characters running around, walking, trying to get pictures taken with them. So.
My son said something about that. He said, "Mom, he doesn't like those guys." And
some of them are obnoxious. Yeah.
Even as a child, they flipped him out, and he said, "Mom, I'd really love to see the Walk of Fame while we're out there, but I'm not going down there because they've got those costume people down there." And I said, "Really? I didn't even know that."
Every so often they wind up on the news punching each other out. It's sort of hilarious, but it's a tough life. They're just trying to get people to take pictures with them and get a tip.
Well, we do the naked cowboy up here in New York City. They take everything off up here.
They do, yeah. That's funny. Are you in New York? Is that where you're based out of now?
Yes.
Yep, I grew up there long time ago.
Oh, yeah. Well, that's got to be honest with you, though. That California sunshine's calling my relocation name.
The weather's nice. It's hard to beat the weather. But, you know, a lot of the audience here, they're instructional designers, they're trainers, they're people who do a lot of business presentations, blended e-learning where they're doing webinars. And it's sort of interesting. You're doing an actor's workshop, and a lot of actors don't realize the importance of their own voices. They know about emoting, but they don't always know how to use their voice. Is that part of what you have to teach them?
It's so true. It's so true. And one of the attractions for me out in LA is that I have a colleague that I met a year or so ago who is an on-set coach who believes without a shadow of a doubt that the voice is crucial for actors. And, you know, of course, he recommends me and he loves for me to come out there. It is crucial. And the thing, it's not just actors, but business people, e-course designers. It's kind of the last thing they think of sometimes.
You're right.
You know, and my thing is the words are everything and they are nothing. It's how you bring them to life.
And a lot of writers, the writers never read out loud what they write.
Right.
So they have no idea.
And you call it the missing link.
Mm-hmm.
I do. And I used to be a little cautious about these things that I throw out with such attitude like that. But after 30 years of doing this, I have seen people literally transform their careers and their lives by changing their voice. They did everything else already. They're not getting where they want to be. They spend a month with me. We get things shifted, and their whole world changes.
You talk about the core 5, Tracy. What are the core 5 when you train people?
Yeah, I believe that vocal variety is one of the big missing links for people. And this is my theory, and this is what I believe and what I've seen and trained over the last 30 years. We have 5 senses. I believe there are 5 elements of vocal variety. There is pausing, elongation, shifts in volume, shifts in pitch, and shifts in speed. In order to impact everyone, you want to use all 5 of those.
Yes.
An example of this, let's say I'm loud averse, which I am. You know, I was yelled at my whole life as a child. I don't like loud. If the presenter's go-to is let me get loud, they've just cut off a part of their audience because they're not affecting the senses that person connects with. Maybe that person connects with elongation. So that's what I mean, you know, the core, that's what I mean when I talk about 5 elements of vocal variety.
Nice. And then you talk about going into the shades of vocal variety.
Absolutely.
But you really need, you say, you really need the core 5. You need to be able to be in command of the core 5 first. That's right.
And I also use the term core 5 to establish you need to be middle of the road. If you're always talking loud like this, like they do sometimes on the East Coast, you're not going to ever be able to benefit from loud. So we want to establish a moderate volume, a moderate pace, a moderate pitch, and then You can play those shades on either side, and that creates unpredictability. And when we're unpredictable, we give the audience a reason to stay with us because they don't know where we're going next. When they know what we're going to do, they can check out.
Well, Tracy, a lot of people talk about the voice having textures, but most people don't. What's a texture? They keep thinking there's no color to it, but there is color to a voice. What makes up the texture of a voice?
I believe it's the shade. Well, I believe it's a lot of things, but I think that the shades of variety have a lot to do with it. I do an exercise with a lot of my people, and I say, you have to just, all you get to say is the word blue. You have to think of a shade of blue, and all you're going to say is the word blue, and by the way you say it, I should know what color. Are you talking about royal? Are you talking about navy? Are you talking about turquoise? So the shades play a big part of it, but then we've also got connecting to the breath, which gives a robust sound. We've got speaking in your real voice. You know, a lot of people don't even speak in their real voice. They talk like this. There's no texture to that. So it's resonance, and it's connecting to the air, and it's breath quality, and it's variety, and that is texture.
Yes.
And what a lot of people don't realize also is you don't just acquire a great voice, you work at it.
You do.
It's practice. It really is a lot of practice to, I remember when I first started trying to do some voiceover, and I would read out loud at least an hour or two every single night and record myself and then go, oh, maybe this isn't for me. No, I think it's not. Let me try it again. After about a couple of years, I started getting used to my voice, good and bad. But it's practice. Everybody says, what do you do to try to develop your voice? You practice. Like anything else. You can't build muscles if you don't work the muscles. And you can't build a voice unless you do something with it.
Yeah, Tracy speaks a lot about muscle memory, the muscle memory of the voice.
Yes, you're speaking my language now. I believe, without a shadow of a doubt, and this is what I've seen and really developed it's the core of my program. I believe in something called the psychology of the voice. The experiences we took in growing up as an adult, they went into our brain, and our brain shifted our voice because our voice is the most vulnerable tool we have. It's the orchestra of the heart. So let me give you an example. A teacher says, you need to shut up. Well, our brain says, you need to shut up. So I start holding my voice in because I need to be quiet. Well, I do that long enough, that is what my muscles are going to do. So it drives me crazy when I hear people say, oh, you need to remember to breathe. Oh, you just need to remember to get your words out. That's not going to happen because the top layer of your muscle memory, what you've been doing for years, that's what's going to deliver, especially in the heat of the moment when you're not thinking. So we have to retrain that muscle memory, like what Rick is talking about. We retrain it. We lay in a new top layer so that if somebody's got their sound stuck in the back of their throat and their words aren't coming out, I give them an exercise and we reconstruct that top layer of muscle memory and their words start flowing out. They get a new top layer. So I believe it is all about muscle memory. It is all just like going to the gym. You can't think your way through it. You can't think your way through, oh, I'll get my words out. Why not retrain those muscles and teach them to just flow out?
And then one of the things, Tracy, is to be natural when you do that.
Yeah,
because
exactly.
you've probably heard a lot of speakers who are so practiced, they sound fake.
Yeah.
They have nice voices. They can get in front of an audience and be perfect.
Yeah.
But it's like, uh-oh, put your hand on your wallet. We're about to get screwed.
Yeah. And you know what that does, Rick? I believe without a shadow of a doubt, because I hear everything. I can hear it's. In fact, I want to change my catch line to "I hear voices" instead of "Captivate the room," because I hear it, and what it does. When people do that, it creates an invisible barrier. That we feel it. Your audience feels it. Now they're not going to sit there like I am and say, "All right, this is what's going on. I hear some rejection in that voice. Let's get rid of that." But they're going to feel it, and ultimately, for sales, for training, that's going to boil down the difference between here is my Visa card. Write it down. I want to buy everything you have, and Let me think about it. I'm going to think about
I,
it.
I went to a sales presentation once, and the guy had a
Point.
technique which was good for about 30 seconds, and then it became so ridiculous. He asked at the beginning of the class, there were about maybe 30 people in that seminar, "What's your name?" "Rick." "What's your name?" "Jamie." "What's your name?" And so he went through everybody. And he had a good technique. He remembered everybody's name. And then during the talk, he would say, "Well, let's talk about real estate. Rick, what do you think about this? And Jamie, if you look at this, and Rick." And after about the third or fourth time, you just go, "Oh, please." It was so fake that it's a gimmick. It became a trick. And when it's obvious that it's a trick, you turn off the audience, I think.
Well, it's predictable, and that's what I'm talking about. That when I talk about shades of variety, that was his go-to, and everybody has a voice go-to, and our brain is telling us every 90 seconds to check out. So when you become predictable,
Yeah.
and when you make that go-to clear to me, I'm out.
Yeah.
So you're saying then the audience will check out but not come back if it's too predictable?
I think that, I think we give our audience permission to check out when we are predictable vocally, because their brain every 90 seconds is going to tell them to do it. Now, I think you can get them back, but I think you have to work really hard to do that. So my goal is always to get people captivating and unpredictable from the start, so you never lose them. Somebody said to me one time, "Do you use PowerPoints?" And I stopped in my tracks and I said, "I am the PowerPoint."
That makes so much sense.
Yeah, right?
And PowerPoint's funny because to this day, after how many death by PowerPoint videos and talks, and people still do bullets. That's
know.
all they ever do. And they go on and on and on and on and on. It just never ends. And you expect the audience to go, "Yeah, that's really interesting. That was a good PowerPoint." No.
Yeah, and I know, Rick, that this show is really for e-learning, e-course developers, and, I've worked with a lot of e-course developers. They've sought me out. They were smart. They knew that they were doing the same thing and it wasn't getting the results that they wanted. And I think that's the danger and the safety sometimes in doing e-courses online. They're not in the room with us, and so it's easy to kind of fall into the safety of the PowerPoint. And it's such a dangerous thing, because as that market gets more competitive, how many voice courses are there? How many public speaking courses? How many web development courses? Well, there's a lot, but it's just going to get even bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. So what's going to set you apart? Well, the fact that you're fascinating, and I don't want to fast forward through you or turn the sound down, that's what sets you apart.
Yeah, a lot of the writing in e-learning is very repetitive. It's so pedantic. It's something like, in this lesson you'll learn this, and in that lesson you'll learn this, and in this lesson, and it just repeats itself over and over. And I really keep thinking, do you really need to tell people every single slide, press next to continue? Press next to continue. Press next to continue. Press next. Hey, hit the next button. Do something. But the sad thing is when you don't, we had one client who calls up and says, "We've had a person sitting here for 90 minutes not knowing what to do." And I said, "Fire them." And they looked at me like, "Fire them?" "Yeah, he's a doctor. If he can't figure that out, fire him." I mean, really, after 40 pages, we don't say click next once and they don't know what to do. They're just stuck. Literally sat there for 90 minutes. And
It's
you just
amazing,
go, "Oh,
right?
gosh." And it happens. It happens. What do I do next? Well, you could breathe. Get some oxygen in your head. Something's missing.
Right.
But it is scary, and that is what we deal with a lot. And I know what you do is a really valuable service, because most people, like you said, no idea that the voice is one of the biggest tools. I'd say it's probably the biggest tool you have, because many times before they see you, they only hear you.
Oh, yeah. The research tells us that in the first 90 seconds that someone hears our voice, they are making decisions about us that would blow our mind. They're deciding what kind of car we drive, what our education is, are we married, are we divorced, how many children we have, are they going to buy from us or not?
Interesting.
Yeah, it's really fascinating. And I believe that, we get really bogged down in the words. Certainly, I see that in my business. People spend hundreds and hundreds of dollars on copywriting and so focused on those words. But if you can't bring those words to life and touch my senses, which in turn affect my emotions, you're not going to get me. You're not going to hook me. And it is the voice that has the power to touch the senses.
We did a course one time, or actually a couple courses for LA County, the Sheriff's Department. And this was for jail mental health services, because a lot of the people who wind up getting arrested have probably had mental illnesses, but have never been treated ever in any which way. No therapy, nothing. And jail is the first time they actually get treatments, but their behaviors may be kind of a little extreme sometimes. And the police officers are trained to command and control. Sit down, raise your hands, do this. That's what they're trained to do. So you've got to retrain that to talk lightly, talk low. If somebody's screaming, you lower your voice. Calm down. Let's talk. And that usually gets a much better result than screaming back, which agitates more and can usually cause confrontations. So our training was basically about 4 hours of how to really calm down, how to take that breath, slow it down, talk low. Hey, I know you've got a problem. Tell me about it.
Wow.
Or something's bugging you. What's going on?
Well, and I see that a lot, Rick. I see people think that voice power means I'm going to really give you something. Loud is the weakest tool in the toolbox.
Right, that's so true.
Yeah. Get quiet, reel them in, watch what happens. So we have these go-tos, and it's like, who set that up? Did we have a class in 3rd grade and I missed it? But they said, get loud if you want to be powerful. No. I think if you get loud, you're getting weak.
Well, look at somebody like Jack Nicholson.
Right.
Who, he doesn't have to say much, but he says it in a low voice. And he gets your attention. Even Clint Eastwood, when he did the movies, he would say, feel lucky, punk. Not raising his voice, not doing
Yeah.
But that carried a lot more in, he's got the inflection points, and it makes you go, pay attention.
That's right.
And I think
Yeah.
what you're
A lot
saying,
more authority.
and I'm going to interpret what you're saying, the lower your voice, the more you get people's attention sometimes.
Yes, because they're not expecting it. It's that unpredictability. We're conditioned almost to, let me stress this word. Let me stress this word. I really need you to buy this from me. We're conditioned to listen for it, and we're conditioned to do it. I would say 97% of the people I've worked with in the last 30 years had never utilized quiet until they met me. Most of them had never utilized pausing. And we rolled that in, and their whole world changed.
Now, it's funny. One time we did a presentation for a very large government unit out in the LA area, and I was doing the presentation. I had one sales guy with me. He was just sort of facilitating a little bit with the PowerPoint. We didn't really use a PowerPoint. And we were talking. I had a group. I'd never met them before except for one person. And I had to explain what e-learning was and why it was important. And at one point, somebody asked the question, and I paused. I paused for about 30 seconds without answering it. And no, it wasn't planned. I had no idea what to say at the moment. I drew a blank. And when I started up again, they were like, wow. And that got us the deal. That closed the deal. The sales guy goes, that 30-second did it. At that point, they were yours. And I was going, I had no idea what I was saying.
Yeah.
I mean, literally, it was just one of those moments of, what the heck should I say on this one? The question was a weird one, and I just drew a blank and then got my resources together and said something. But it was real interesting. Silence won the deal.
Right.
Unplanned, but it worked.
Yeah, and we're afraid that we're going to lose them. We're afraid that we're going to lose them in the silence. We're afraid that we're going to lose them in the quiet. Well,
Yeah.
we're actually getting them. You know, I taught a guy out in Colorado, those two things alone. He's a big speaker. He speaks all over the country. That's his job. And I taught him to do those two things, and it shifted the whole world for him, because he said they would just start peeling off their seat waiting for him. He said it's such a power trip.
Yeah, because that proves they are paying attention. All of a sudden,
Right.
they go, am I missing something? What's going on?
That's right.
You know, can I get into that person's head? What's going on? And then when you start talking again, it has a different effect.
Totally.
Yeah, that was just pure trial. In my case, it was pure trial and error. I went, that was interesting.
Yeah, well, it was a good
Could have
job.
gone really the other way, but it turned out well in terms of, you know, and as we analyze it, go, yeah, I guess we held their attention because it was not expected. They
Yeah,
thought it was going to be an instant
unpredictable.
reply.
Well, and it makes the speaker a bit human, which makes the speaker trustworthy,
Good
which
point.
in and of itself gives authority.
Yeah.
Absolutely. You're so right. You're so right. And we get so bogged down. I think speakers get so bogged down, or people doing videos get so bogged down. And I got to get this right. I got to get these words. I got to get this message. Connection's completely lost.
Yeah.
And we, you know, we have to have that human quality. Well, that comes from these vocal nuances.
Yeah, they said that speakers, I guess, who are very quote-unquote perfect, don't relate very well to audiences.
Right.
That's interesting.
Tracy, would you say there's a difference for a speaker now, for a speaker, those that you train, to speak to the entire audience or to speak to that one person in the audience? What's your approach there?
Do you mean in the, let me process this for just a minute. I think it becomes about, I guess I'm going to say I do neither, but I kind of would say I do to that one person. I think
Okay.
it ultimately becomes about connecting to our best resources within ourselves. What, you know, mind, body, and voice must be connected for the audience to connect to us.
Yes.
So if we can have, you know, for me training a speaker, it becomes about, can you fully connect into your zone of genius? Because if you're fully connected into your zone of genius, we're going to connect to you. So that's kind of, I feel like I'm not answering the question, because it is speak to the individual, but it is speak to the whole. But it's not about being on and performance and skill in that moment. It's about the skills that we've integrated within ourselves to tap into our own vocal energy and our own groundedness and our own connection to our material. Does that make sense?
That makes absolute sense. Basically,
Okay.
to me, what you're saying is you're touching the individual. You're talking to the individual trees, not to the forest. You're relying on the microphone, things like that, to get you technically across, so that you're audible. But you are touching the individual minds, individual spirits, individual personalities. That makes perfect sense to me. It sounds great.
Yeah, it's really about, it's not about the exterior. It's not about the note cards or how polished the sound is. It's about getting that connection, that grounding, that mind, body, voice. I'm connected to my message. I know how to deliver it. I'm going into my zone. And because of that, I'm going to create a connection with everybody in that audience.
Do you sometimes train people for whom English is a second language? Because, you know, sometimes when you're speaking a language that you're not comfortable in, because you just don't have that fluency, your gestures, your movements, your cadence will be different just because your instincts are just not in it as much. Yet I know through training, even if it is your second language, there's a lot of things that people can learn to still come across and still have that personal touch and still have a flow to it.
I would say that 60% of my client base, English is the second language. If
Nice.
not 60, I would say probably 50. And the majority, I work with more people out of the country than I do in the country, believe it or not. And the biggest thing for many of those people, especially the English as a second language, by the time they get to me, their confidence is shattered, because they have spent so much time being criticized about their speed, about their accent, having to constantly repeat themselves, that their voices are withdrawn. They're stuck in the back of their throat. They're not going to try out vocal variety because they're terrified they're going to be even understood. So those are simple fixes in my world. You know, we don't have to go into deep accent reduction. What I have to do is I have to build their confidence back up by getting their sound out so they can get a better result, and that within itself builds the confidence. But yes, that is a core of my business. And there's a lot of people from other countries, but believe it or not, it's from people in the U.S. too. I've had Fortune 500 executives from Texas call me up, and they were worried because they sounded like Texas. I had a guy from Chicago. He said, every time I say my name, they say, "What did you say?" His name was Adam. He had a Chicago accent. And he got sick and tired of repeating his name, so he found me. So it's a big issue for confidence. It really deconstructs the voice entirely when they're dealing with that.
And what makes sense to me is with your approach, with the core 5, with breathing, with the approach, you approach the entire person, the entire speaker, so that next time when they get up on the podium, they're not thinking, oh, there's this one word where I have to do this, and there's that other word where I have to do this, and when this happens, and you take it from their core.
Yes.
And release them into just security, and they can basically, just one lesson with you will help them, and then the next lesson will make them even better. But they're not standing up there going, oh, she said this, and now I've got to do that.
Yeah.
You really show them ways to express that confidence that is there. I mean, these people know what they're talking about.
That's right. That's right. And that's exactly what I do. You know, my method, I think, is a lot different because it's not about, okay, recite this, recite this, recite this, repeat after me. It's about, and I tell people this when they come to work with me, I said, we're going to change the way you speak forever. This is not an on thing. This is going to be the new you. And we're going to take that core and we're going to set it at a moderate everything, and then we're going to add in the flair, and from that confidence is going to come. So I tell my people, I don't want you thinking about me. I don't want you've never even met me when you're in that moment. It's not about remembering, oh, I got to say it this way. We're going to build that in so that you just do it.
Nice.
Yeah.
So for people in presentations who have to get in front of classrooms or executives, what's one of the biggest things they do wrong, and what's one of the biggest things they do right?
Sorry, that phone was ringing. One of the biggest issues that I see is they get bogged down in the script. The minute you get bogged down in a script, you are disconnecting into your head. When you disconnect into your head, your voice cannot work properly. So I see people get way too bogged down in their notes, in the words, in the script, in the slides, and the minute they get their head going on it, their voice is not going to work properly unless they have trained their muscle memory different. So that's why people flatline. They may be able to practice and do okay. They can be kind of interesting when they're not nervous, but get them nervous in that moment, and they've got that note card stack, and they start worrying about the words, and I've got to get the words out, and I've got to make sure I get this right because the message is so important.
So in essence, the brain gets in the way.
The brain gets in the way.
Yeah.
The brain gets in the way. And the muscles...
You give them individual exercises and approaches for all these different things to retrain their muscle memory.
That's right. That's right. I teach, I listen to people. People send me voice assessments. I do free voice assessments for people, and I get back to them and I say, this is what I hear. Your sound is stuck in the back of your throat. Your sound is dropping through the bottom of your jaw. Or maybe you're not speaking in your real voice. Or you've got to go to in vocal variety. We've got to roll in the other four. And then step by step, we roll them in. I teach them exactly what they need to do to fix it. I craft a homework assignment for them to work on specifically. They work on it 15 minutes a day, and nobody stays with me longer than a month because I can change muscle memory in a month.
Nice.
Yeah, it's so fun, too.
So Tracy, let's do something to put us on the spot. Linda and myself. You've been
Y'all are
listening to us.
tough, though.
You've been
Y'all are
listening to us
good.
for a while. You've been hearing us talk and babble and do whatever else. What would you analyze our voices to be like? Let's start with Linda.
Well, I think you both have really great voices. This is tough. Okay, Linda, tell me just a couple of lines of a quick story about what you did this weekend.
This weekend, so it was my son's birthday, and it was very funny because he celebrated his birthday with a friend, and I'm used to all of his friends coming over and everything's fine. Well, this friend happened to have lots of model friends, so all of a sudden all of these wonderful, beautiful, fabulously dressed people started coming to our house, and I was like, oh my goodness, and started getting nervous.
Okay, that was great. Beautiful variety. Now, of course, I'm going to be honest with you. Anybody from the UK has the competitive edge from all over everybody in the whole world.
They win.
They have the most structurally perfect voice, the natural timbre. It's a forward placement, so the sound flows out. Lots of beautiful variety. If I was going to have to find one thing, and I'm not even sure, I would have to play around with it a little bit more, but I don't question your breathing capacity. I question momentarily that connection of the sound to the air. So if you were to say a few words like you were sighing, like, if you took in air and you sighed out and the air came out with the sound, say a couple of words like that and then talk normal again. I'd be curious to hear if that didn't connect your breath to your sound even more.
Okay, so I don't know if I've gotten quite what you want. So I interpret that as kind of like saying things that when you're sad and you just kind of let it flow out like that is...
Yeah, or like
that.
Marilyn Monroe,
Oh, Marilyn Monroe. Yes. So Marilyn Monroe, I really love how she mouths around the words when she formed them, of course with a different accent, and just her softness and the softness around the edges of her voice and her vocal capacity was really beautiful.
Okay, excellent, fantastic. Did you hear how that completely shifted your resonance?
And what I'd heard is she also slowed down quite a bit.
Yeah. So while I don't have any doubt that you're breathing, and while I don't have any doubt that you're connected to your breath, I think you could be even more connected to your breath, which would create an even stronger resonance for you, and it would just like blow us out of the room. You got to be careful because it almost would make stalkers. We'd all like be following you, like, oh, I want to hear her, I want to listen to her. Talk to me more. Because it's so beautiful. Because your voice is great.
Nice points. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I told you, I hear voices.
Okay, Tracy, now it's Rick's turn.
All right, Rick, tell me a story about what you did this weekend.
Oh, what did I do this weekend? Well, this weekend, about a year and a half ago, we got rid of one of our cars. It went off lease, and we said, we don't want another car. We're done. We've had it. We'll keep our van. And we really wanted another car. It's been a year and a half. We said, we just like having a sedan. So we went off, and we went to a Lexus dealership, but we've had a couple before. They're good service. And when we got there, I'm looking at the cars going, I think I know what I want. But I don't think my wife wants what I want, because what I want costs about $30,000 more than what she's willing to pay. So I'm going, okay, I'll compromise. I don't need that. It was an $84,000 car. I don't need it. It's more, I don't even drive anymore. A year and a half ago, I gave up driving because I have a weird eye condition. So we got this one car. We got a Lexus GS 350 on lease, and the salespeople were really nice. Everybody was good. And I'm sitting going, I'm in the passenger seat, and I really want to be in the driver's seat. So a year and a half ago, when I gave up my driving license, I said, oh, well, so let it be. Now I'm thinking, I want my license back. And I went to an eye doctor today who said, in 2 weeks, let me give you a shot of a laser thing, which could actually improve your vision 20 to 50%. And I'm thinking, my car is going to come back to me. It really will. So that's what I did this weekend. We got a new car, which I'm not driving, but I want to drive. It's calling at me, Ray, do you want to drive? Mm-hmm. And so that's what we're at. So that's what we did this weekend. We got a car after a year and a half of just a van.
All right, very good. Now, great resonance, great articulation, a lot of good things going on. See, both of you are really tough, so I'm really having to listen. This would be what I'd love to hear with you. And this is always a trick with men. But I think if you added in pitch play, it would up your game tremendously. You've got a nice use of slow and fast and loud and soft. I want to give you permission to use even more of that because you do it well. Those moments that you got quiet on us were my favorite moments. Those moments when you were utilizing that variety were my favorite moments. I want to give you permission to roll in more of that. And I think that's what happens to a lot of people. They use variety, but they don't want to overuse variety. Well, I love your variety. I want to say do a little bit more of it. And I think it would be phenomenal if you could roll in a little pitch play now and then.
Go up a little bit higher, a little bit lower.
Yeah, and pitch is tricky. Pitch is always my least favorite thing to teach, especially to men. But even with women, because what I have found is so many people, we just don't develop our middle range.
Right.
And so this fear of cracking is real. And even with women I've worked with that needed to roll in pitch play, it was tough because it was this level or this. And there was really no in between. So pitch is tricky. It's what I call a little bit of a slow burn, meaning it takes a little bit longer to teach. Some of the stuff I do, I can knock it out in a week. Pitch and breathing are longer burns. But oh my gosh, I think with your voice you could totally pull it off and it would add a whole nother dimension, add a whole nother layer to what the good stuff that you've already got going.
Yeah, and part of it, with what I have on right now, it's a compressor which lowers the voice a little bit. So that makes it just a little bit lower. Rather than go a little bit higher, like you're getting really excited, then you're kind of going down a little bit.
Yeah.
Even when you go higher, like high, if I go really high, it's going to bring it down low.
Okay.
So there's going to be a little bit of that, but no, I get what you're saying about the pitch, and it is tricky because if you're in a business meeting, you go too high, they're kind of going, what the heck is he doing?
No, you gotta practice it. You gotta work on it. You gotta know that you have it. Like I don't set my people free on pitch until I know it's not going to fail them. Because if it goes out and fails them, oh my gosh, I have done some damage. And that I'm about building confidence. And so, I don't want any.
Your whole approach is the entire person. Your whole approach is
you
don't want to pull one thing out so that then the speaker is just concentrating on that one thing. That's the beauty of how you teach and what you teach, that it all builds on everything builds on the, what am I trying to say?
Oh, I know exactly what you're saying,
It's the core five that you,
That's
as
right.
you call them,
Yeah.
they build on each other. It's not different parts that one has to think
and
about.
Linda, did you notice that both of us, because I did it too, I went faster than I normally do. You sped up and I sped up because all of a sudden we're performing or trying to put variety, and we're probably thinking a little bit more than we should. And it's getting a little faster, because I noticed I was getting faster, and I was going, I better slow it down a little bit. I was thinking, and I was, and I think you were too, because you were.
For me, it was because I was trying to say something that I'm not used to Tracy's lingo.
But then when you
I'm
became,
used to a bit because I've
but
researched
when you
her a bit.
became Marilyn Monroe, you slowed it down, and all of a sudden it's like, hey, look at Linda. It's Linda.
You're right.
Boy.
You're right.
Yeah. And it was a totally different sound. And so it is interesting because voice, when you always say that voice is one of the most important things, if not the most important, I would say it's probably the most important first, and then everything else has to follow.
Well, the research tells us that people will watch a video with bad lighting, but they will not watch a video with bad audio.
No, that's so true.
And I think the voice plays a part in that. There's, I'm like, you don't want to hang around me because I'm like taking Scorsese to a movie. I just go crazy, and I'll just turn the sound down in a heartbeat. I just can't handle it, and I hear that from a lot of people as well. So I know it's not just me. I know it's, I see it in forums, and I see people talking, and it's like, great course, or great show, or great webinar, but I couldn't listen to you.
Hey, one thing we didn't talk about in the minutes we have left, and that is the enormous amount of verbal crutches people have. And I've noticed throughout the years, people start every sentence with so, and I always say, so what? So what?
Yeah.
So what? So. That's a real bad one. Or, people do that a lot. And I notice even professional speakers or politicians, which aren't really professional speakers, but they are, when they get nervous, you start hearing, well, and you get the, and it's like, shut up, don't say anything, just shut up. And we all do that every so often. But it's very noticeable when they do it, because you can tell that, especially with politicians, at that point they're trying to figure out, what do I lie about next? They just, and it's like, stop, and it can go on for 30, 40 seconds sometimes. It's really interesting.
Well, and it's because they are ungrounded. They are disconnected into their head trying to think, and they are ungrounded. They need to be grounded. And then what that does is that becomes a part of them, so it becomes an idiosyncratic, so they lay it into the muscle memory, and so all of a sudden you've got somebody who's saying so all the time, or doing an uptick, or playing with their hair, or doing something, and they don't even know they're doing it anymore. They laid it right into the muscle memory, but it came out of lack of grounding. They were disconnected, mind, body, and voice. And so it's, when you go up into your mind, your body and your voice are like toddlers. They're going to do whatever they want. And that's how all that gesturing and those vocal tics start, and then we do them repeatedly, and then they lay into the muscle memory, and then they're there.
Yes, I'm glad you mentioned the uptick, the ending every sentence going up. Every sentence is a question.
Well, that's very California too. I went to the store.
Yeah,
and I got a new car.
It's a vocal habit.
Yeah.
My name is Linda Joy.
Linda Joy?
Yeah.
Are you sure?
Yeah, and it can happen as easily as, well, the cool girl in high school did it, so I started mimicking her. I've literally worked with people. There was a girl I worked with in New York who had a nasal sound, and I pulled her voice down out of her nose, and she said, I used to not, I didn't always talk this way. And I said, well, when did you start? And she said, when the cool girl in high school had a nasal sound, and I mimicked her, and I said it, she laid it in.
Wait, do you remember years ago when Barbra Streisand was really, really popular as a singer and was at the top of her career, and somebody said, why don't you have a nose job? And she goes, it would ruin my voice.
Yeah, that's right.
And she knew the air, everything would change.
Yeah.
It's interesting. Well, you have a whole country in Spain that had a king with a lisp, and half of them speak with lisps.
That's right.
It's hilarious. It's like, why? Because the king spoke with a lisp.
That's right. Yeah. I can totally see it.
It's funny. It's amazing how these, but you do something that's difficult. You have to break the habits.
Yeah.
Would you say the habits are extremely easy to come by?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. I took my dog downstairs last night, and a guy gave her a treat. You know where she went this morning first thing? Right back to that door. Right back, one time, one treat. That's all it takes.
It was life-changing. It was life-changing, Tracy.
we hear somebody do something one time, two times, we try it out, How do you think accents are built?
Yeah.
Why does Linda sound like she does? You sound like, why does Irish, Spanish, whatever. It's because that's what we heard. And we didn't have to hear it long to form our muscles into that accent. So I can just as easily, when I'm in New York, I sound like a New Yorker. When I go home to Texas, I sound like Texas, and I don't even try. It just it's just rote.
But
It
you
just
know,
happens.
haven't you noticed that people who like people and you're kind of empathetic to what people say, you're a natural imitator?
Yeah.
And I've been to Texas a lot too, and within a day I'm y'all. Hey y'all.
Yeah.
I go, my God, where'd that come from?
Right,
It's
right,
just,
yeah.
it's a y'all. It just, everybody says y'all. It just comes out.
Yeah.
Or you're in, let's say, Carolinas, and somebody says, "Oh my word," and before you know it, you're saying, "Oh my word." You just go, "Oh gosh," they stick. And part of it
Yeah.
is getting along with people, letting them understand who you are, what they are, and people like to hear themselves
Yeah.
or hear somebody who sounds like them or imitates them, or and it's funny, sometimes you do it totally subconsciously, and then you catch yourself and go, "Oh, maybe I shouldn't have done that." Oh well.
Right.
So it's really reassuring to know that Tracy's clients usually just are with her for maybe a month or a little bit more. That's how profoundly you work with them, and that's how great your approach is to break these habits in such a short time.
Right. And years ago they would be with me a bit longer. But after having done this as long as I've done it, and I study it, I live it, I breathe it, I sleep it, I eat it, and I have figured out what it is, and I have figured out the technique that's going to get the fastest result. What's going to flip those muscles based on what I hear? What's going to flip it the fastest? And, I drive business people crazy because they say, you need to have those people stay with you 3 months. They need to pay you for 3 months. Why? Let me get it done in a month. And I'm not going to say that sometimes it doesn't take 3 months, because sometimes it does. Sometimes people are with me 6 weeks, but the majority of my client base makes massive, massive shifts in 4 weeks. And I may see them again in a month or 2 or 3. They want to come back and do something else, but we shift the core in a month, in 4 weeks, 4 sessions.
Amazing.
That's great.
Yeah.
That's great. Well, Tracy, we are about at the end of our time. How can people get a hold of you? What's the best way?
They can find me at captivatetheroom.com, and I'd love for them to check out what's going on. I've got a new online program that's just come out, and workshops and all kinds of fun things. And they can send me a voice assessment. I'm happy to hear their beautiful voices at Tracy, Tracy, at captivatetheroom.com as well.
You also have a ton of free content on YouTube. You've got some really good content on YouTube as well.
Yeah, I do. I have a lot of videos on YouTube.
Yeah, a lot of good advice in those. So if you're even considering getting training, go watch those videos. There's some great advice right there.
Yes.
Thanks. I'm glad to hear that.
Linda, any other questions?
No. I think we really covered a lot, and I'm just amazed how helpful this is. How simple, really. Because of how straightforward your I don't even want to call it technique, because it's not. It's your approach.
Yeah, it really is. It's easier than people realize, and sure, it's an investment in time and money, but it's like I tell people, it's an investment in time and money for a month, and then you're done. And then when we shift that voice, you're not going to have to do it again, ever.
Yes. And you've written 3 books. 2 of them seem to be exactly about this. With the first one, Changing Lessons, Changing Lives, that is more about teaching, isn't it?
Yes, yes.
Whereas the Captivate the Room with your voice, and the other one, Be Delicious, the only voice improvement book you will ever need. I think that's wonderful.
Yeah, it's true. And that's what I teach people to do. Don't you want to be the person that walks in the room that moves like liquid and sounds like a chocolate fountain? I mean, let's get you to be delicious.
Love that.
Wonderful analogy.
Time to go get a shake after this.
I know, right?
I was thinking, yeah, that sounds good. Well, Tracy, as always, it's been a pleasure having you on. We'll also put in the show notes how people can get in touch with you, and we'll have all of the website links. And get the books. Are the books on Kindle by any chance?
I think, yes, they are.
Okay,
They are.
great.
They
So
are on
you can get the
Kindle.
hardcover or the soft cover, or
That's right.
get the electronic version.
And 3 seminars are coming up, so.
That's right. That's
In Los
right. And
Angeles.
a brand new online program. So come and see me.
That'll be fun.
Well, thank you so much for having me. It's always a pleasure to be on your show, and it's such a joy to meet you today and get to spend some time with you, Linda. You're just great.
And from now on, we expect you in a different wig and acting like Marilyn Monroe.
Okay.
Yeah, for sure, for sure.
Thank you, Tracy.
Well,
This
thanks,
is great.
Tracy. And for all you people watching in the chat room, please subscribe for whatever that does, other than give you notices of when we have a show, and leave us your feedback. And definitely get a hold of Tracy. Do her and us the favor, because I think you'll benefit a lot from what she has to offer. So have a good one, everyone. We'll see you next week on eLearnChat. Bye, everyone. Thanks.
Bye-bye.
Bye, thank you.